Alright, what's up everybody? Um, so, if you were watching last week, I started doing these spin glue mask spin die designs on these two glow firebirds, right? And I was talking about doing prep work on another one, but I never got to that because we didn't finish the spin dies yet. The reason I didn't finish it, because I could have gone long on the episode, but the problem is the glue had to dry, and that might have taken like an hour or two or something like that. Even I ran it in the dehydrator, and that's how I speed up the glue drying process. But you don't want to rush that too much. Like if it has to be completely dry, right? So I didn't want us to just sit there and I mean it would end up being like a 2 hour plus episode. So I was like, we'll just finish it next time. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're gonna finish up this dyeing session that we started last time. Um, as a reminder, if you didn't watch that, go check it out. I basically go through how to do these two different style of glue mask designs. Um, and tonight I'll finish up. I'll put a base coat over it. Then I'm gonna wash all the glue off, and then you'll be left with the finished design. So there's that one. You can kind of see it's got like that what I call like the tracer design on it. Okay. Which, by the way, this is still one of my favorite all-time stamps. It's a Glow Firebird, Zachariah Johnson Tour Series, and I don't know much about him as a disc golfer, but I love this stamp because if you spin it, it looks like the bird's flying. It's a phenakistoscope, so pretty cool. I've designed a couple phenakistoscopes myself. I've got the one where the ninja disappears in the smoke bomb, and then I did one with like a rolling dice. So, and you could do a lot. I've seen some really cool ones. Like I seen one with like the dancing peanut butter jelly time guy, the dancing banana. Then I seen one that was like I've seen a lot of like Grateful Dead like dancing bears one. So just different stuff you can do. What I did on mine is I took GIFs and I like pretty simple ones and I broke them down into frames and then you just arrange it around the thing and maybe sometime we'll do a episode or a tutorial on that, on laying out phenakistoscopes. Anyway, this is the other design. I don't know what you call this. I think I just kind of call it like the squiggles. You got the little squiggle design all over there. And yeah, so now we're just going to put some color on these. This is actually the easier part of doing all this. So let me share my camera here so you can see what I'm doing on my turntable. Hang on a second. Actually, you just got to make my face smaller. Yay! Put me over here. How's that? I can go a little bigger on my face. There we go. Okay, and we got my turntable here. And I still gotta get a couple things out, so give me 1 second. I gotta get my little Sharpie that I use to center things with. I don't know why I use a Sharpie. That's what I always did. And I've tried other things and it just works. It just works good. I don't know. Then I've got my dies down here. Get the lid off of it. Maybe. There we go. And I got my trash can. My Q-tips over there. Paper towel, always good. Okay, so we're just gonna center this up. I think this one, because it's already kind of a darker design, I'm just gonna do black over the top of it, and that's gonna leave like black lines for the little squiggles. We're gonna do something different on the Firebird though. We're gonna do like a color fade. We're just gonna go slightly darker than what's already on there, basically. Anyway, for this one, let's go ahead and get it centered. If you get too much glue on your edges, this might be difficult to do. Unless, of course, like I was saying before, you got a nifty jig, which I don't. Part of the reason is because I cut my spindle down to like a bare minimum nub, and because of that, I can't really. The jig I wanted for it, I ordered it and everything, and it was really nice. It would have worked really good, but my spindle's not. There's not enough of it there to mount it on there, so eh. All right. It's going to be pretty simple. Like I said, we're just going to go black over the top of this. And it's the part where you just have to trust your method here because you're just going to cover up all your color. And if if you've masked it correctly, if you've the glue when you wipe it off, you'll only be left with the design, and the rest of that black won't be there. Okay. Just forgive me in advance. I'm just gonna let you know I am gonna take like breaks to go wash this off, and I might be in there for a minute because trying to get all this glue off. But that's part of the process, and I am gonna have to do that. So. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying not to touch that stamp because this is acetone based and it will take that stamp off. I want to get close to it because I want to cover up my little glue mask area. You know, do all my art that I'm trying to do. And you can see in the picture there, like this dark is pure black. So again, just trust your process. You've got it masked. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to cover up your colors. It's only going to cover up. It's only going to lay down where you've got your design kind of mapped out, whatever. And again, I walked through how to do that on the last one. There's a few other things, like there's actually really no limit to what you can do with this glue masking. There's some people that out there that are real masters of this. I'm not a master of anything, you guys. I like to disc dye, but I don't consider myself a master of anything. I'm just kind of a jack of all these trades, and I play around with a little bit of everything, but there are definitely some people that just have real expertise in this stuff. Um, I don't know the guy's name off the top of my head right now, but Dojo Designs, that guy does some awesome glue masking designs. I tip my hat to him. He's really good at that stuff. Um, like I said, there's a lot of people who are good at it, but I was just gonna say one of the things that I often do too, besides these are like my two like go-to is the tracers and the little squiggles. Then I do one, I don't know what you'd call it, I don't know, but it's kind of a, I'll take and just lay like kind of like I would do with this, just cover it with glue, and then I'll take like a plastic fork and just as it's spinning, actually I probably don't do it spinning like this, but just manually spin it and then just drag a bunch of, and it kind of just looks like I don't know, little flames or something. I don't really know what you would call that. Like I said, I don't know what that design would be called, but it's another cool little glue masking effect. And I do again, you kind of do this in conjunction with laying down some colors, and then you put this on top of it. You know, that's ideally how you would do it. I've seen some cool stuff though. I've seen like people design like stuff that kind of looks like a piece of fruit. Hey, I don't know. It's really cool to see what people can do with this. And I'm hoping if you're watching this and if you're trying to learn something about disc dyeing from me, you know, take this and run with it. If you see this and you're like, I wish you would have done it this way, then by all means, when you try this, try that stuff. Try the different ideas that come to your head because I mean that's where it comes from. Like I said before, I have a unique style that I do when it comes to bed dyes. When I was on featured on the differences doing it to teach that style, it was so weird because when I started doing it, I was thinking like there's nobody doing it this way and I don't know why. And as soon as I tried it, I got great results and I just kept doing it that way and I got really good at it. And to me, it's a really simple way of doing things. It has some drawbacks. It's not perfect. It's like all disc dyeing. There's pros and cons to all these different styles. You just get different effects depending on what you're trying to do, you know. Kind of just weigh that on each one that you do and decide if that's how you want to do it or not. And what I'd say is like what I'm talking about is what I call my Floetrol blossoms, and I'm doing blossom bed designs, which people do. People have been doing that with lotion for years, and you could do it with other things as well. You can kind of do something similar with a clear glue bed. You can do it, like I said, I do it with Floetrol, and the reason I do it with Floetrol is because it's just quicker and easier. But with Floetrol, you can get movement in the bed, and you can get a lot of air bubbles that come up later in the process. With lotion, you'll get a lot of air bubbles while you're making it, but if you get those air bubbles out, you should be done with it. Floetrol likes to move. Like that's the reason why they use it for cells. And that's one of the drawbacks is like you get your design all perfect and you put your disc on it, especially if you're using heat like in a dehydrator, you can get some movement and your design will get blurred a little bit as it's sitting there in the bed. That's one of the drawbacks. Usually it works pretty good, but that's just like I said, that's one of the drawbacks. Another thing too is that Floetrol with certain colors sink because they have like different densities or something, and that can be an issue while you're trying to lay out your design. It's like you're trying to do something very specific, trying to make each color stand out, and then it just kind of sinks on you. Anyway, filled up a lot of conversation while I'm sitting there just dyeing my disc black. If you didn't catch the first of this, so again, I covered up my glue mask design with black. I'm going to go wash it all off now, and we'll be left with that finished design that we originally glue masked. I'm going to go do that right now. Bear with me. I will be right back. Here, I'll give you something cool to look at while I'm gone. Hang on a second. Check that out. There you go. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, finished drying it off now. Like I said, you're just covering it with black dye like that. It's paranoia kind of sets in. You're like, I'm ruining my design. You gotta trust the process, and when it's all done, you're left with something like that. And like I said, there's something about like just laying spin dye colors is really fun. But if you can throw that on top of it, it just adds like another layer. It really kind of sets things off, you know? And it's just subtle. Just a subtle little cool thing to add to it, you know? And as far as that goes, I mean, it's not that hard to do, and all you're using is just old white glue, you know, it's cheap stuff, you know. It's a lot cheaper to, like I say, if you want to get into disc dyeing and you're looking for the most cost-effective way to like make your dye last, spin dyeing. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. And believe it or not, stencils too, because stencils don't actually use a lot of dye. Depending on how you do it. If you're doing like lotion painting, maybe, but lotion painting doesn't use up nearly as much as lotion beds. Mostly, if I'm doing hand painting, I do it by hand. I do it with the same stuff I spin dye with. Sometimes I might use the denatured alcohol if I want it to a little bit more subtle control. Maybe we'll do something about that one time. I did do that one disc. Um, on one, it's like one of our first episodes on this. I did that one. The cross with the three nails, and I hand painted a little bit, but it was just a little bit of the disc. But I've done like full scenes with that. The thing about hand painting with acetone or denatured alcohol, denatured alcohol is a little more subtle, but both of them really kind of show like your directional marks, stuff like that. It's a little bit harder to get a subtle color, but if you're looking for like shading and blending and stuff like that, that's how you're gonna have to do it. A lot of people will like lotion paint to put like a base color on, and then they'll go in and they'll shade or do subtle different color differences with denatured alcohol or acetone mixes. Anyway, I'm getting off on tangents that's not even related to what we're doing, but that's usually what I do because I'm a little ADD a little bit. And here's the other one. This is the one that's the tracer effect. So when I do this one, I think what I'm gonna do is kind of go like black right up against the ring so it stands on top of that dark blue, and then I'm just gonna go like just a little darker than what's on there now so it kind of stands out, but I want it to kind of blend in with what's there, and that's gonna be similar to that other disc that I did, which is the cover, the thumbnail for this one, but that's like this one, right? So yeah, I basically use the same color scheme, but I just kind of blended it in. And you have to be careful. Like if you want to do like completely contrasting colors, you got to remember that you're still putting it down on top of the color that's there. So if it's not, you got to be careful. The colors are going to blend together. So if you use like if I use blue on this part that's like more yellow out here on the edge, I'm going to get a green color, right? So if I was to use say like purple on this or something, right? Purple is like the opposite of yellow, so I would end up with like a brown color, right? So you got to be careful like what you combine together, all right? Color theory 101 stuff, I guess, in case you don't know. And if you don't know, grab yourself a color wheel and see how it works. And when I say something's the opposite, if you combine opposite colors, every primary color, like red, yellow, blue, has an opposite secondary color. So red and green are opposites, blue and orange are opposites, yellow and purple are opposites. So when you mix the one color with its opposite, you end up with brown. You mix enough of it together, you'll end up with black. So, yeah. Just keep that in mind when you're laying down these colors, not to go overboard because you're not actually covering up with dye, you're blending together, which is why us disc dyers like to start with white or clear discs because we have more variability with that. If you start with a colored disc, you can by all means dye it, but you can only make things darker, right? You can only add if you start with like a dark blue disc, there's really not a whole lot you can do with that other than put like a black stencil on top of it. You could put some red into it and get some purple, but darker colors are harder to work with. Pink disc or yellow disc, you can actually do quite a bit with that though, so to play around with that yourself and see where it gets you. So like my only advice there. Okay, so we're gonna go black, we're gonna go dark dungeon, then we're gonna go, where's Royal at? It's not royal. Royal. Maybe on the outside we go aqua. I think that should do it. Okay. Got a few different Q-tip varieties that I use here. I think I talked about that last time. I got like my standard, just regular Q-tip, right? But then I've also got these that like one end is quite pointy and one end is just a little less pointy, but kind of just different stuff I play around with to get different effects, different precision, I guess. And I do use paintbrushes too. Usually the only time I really bust out paintbrushes though if I'm trying to get a really thin, really precise line. Because I prefer Q-tips because I can just throw them away. I don't have to clean up afterwards. Not to mention, sorry if I'm trying not to block the shot. Kind of having a hard time seeing this for some reason. Getting a lot of glare, which is unusual. I don't usually have glare on this. I think it's just kind of, it's like reflecting off the glue. Which makes it difficult to see and get precise with what I'm doing. Alright. A little bit of black there. Go ahead and go into the dark dungeon now. That sounds weird. I'm going to use dark dungeon now. I'm not entering a dungeon, okay? If I was, I'd be like Kevin McAllister on Home Alone and be like, this is it. Don't get scared now. Why? Because the Lord did not give us a spirit of fear, did he? The answer to that is no. Many, many times in the Bible it tells us to fear not. More than any other phrase, right? And that's what I think about when I do these dies is don't be afraid. Trust the process. You know what you're doing. Why do you know what you're doing? Because the YouTube guy told me. He said it's gonna work. If you guys have been watching my little like shorts, little short reels that I do talking about like the previews for these episodes. The last one I kind of, and even in the last episode, I was kind of talking about how there's a lot of uncertainty as far as how much longer I'm going to do this. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, I feel like it's important with especially stuff like this where it's like I'm trying to be a teacher. And again, I'm not talking about disc dying. Like, can I do a podcast about disc dying? Absolutely. I could do this as long as I wanted to. I've got plenty of stuff to teach and plenty of stuff I could do. But when it comes to the other stuff I've been doing as far as like teaching, doing the Bible teaching and stuff like that, I think it's important for us to all like kind of think about don't don't do stuff just because you have a will to do it. Do stuff because you're called by God to do it. And I don't necessarily think that I have been called. I talked about this in one of the other episodes, and I know that God gave me a command to something that He asked me to do, but it wasn't about teaching, and it wasn't necessarily about doing content creation or anything like that. It was about learning. It just commanded me to be in a season of learning, to learn His Word, to become a student of the Word, and I've been trying to do that. Like I said, I was going to an online school to get ordained for a while, doing the studies. That's a whole nother discussion too. It's not that I'm I somewhat enjoy it, but I feel like I could get a lot more out of it if it was like a in-person classroom setting. I really thrive in a classroom setting where I can have discussion and ask questions and kind of pick the teacher's brain a little bit. The online stuff is very impersonal and it's just not wasn't really doing a whole lot for me. I wasn't getting a whole lot out of it. Um, there's also a little bit of you know, I'm studying through um, a certain denomination, and you're learning what they want you to know to be ordained through their denomination, through their ministry. Which, for the most part, the denomination I agree with most everything they say, but there is some nuances of the theology that I don't necessarily agree with, and I don't know that God's called me to be ordained anyway. So a lot of that's kind of on hold just because I don't really know if that's where God wants me. And the same thing's kind of going on with this. Like, is this what God wants me to be doing with my time, with my life right now? I don't really necessarily think that the answer to that is yes, right? I feel like I've been kind of having a message from God here and there saying that this is not where He wants me. What He really wants me doing is focusing on learning again. And I think also with my baby due in March, it's going to be hard for me to keep up this weekly thing. Now, what I would like to say is my original like motivation for getting into this was because I had things I wanted to share with my friends and my family about like my journey to faith because I feel like a lot of my friends and family think that religion is kind of for, without a better way of putting this, kind of for like simple-minded people, and that they were kind of surprised that someone like me would buy into it, right? So a lot of this was about explaining to them the the reasoning behind a lot of it, right? That this isn't just nonsense. That there's a lot of evidence for what I believe, and I didn't just rush into it. Like people think that faith is just believing without evidence, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think most people's faith is built on evidence, and that's what I wanted to kind of walk through. And I've done a lot of that. I could certainly go a lot deeper on some of the stuff, but I think that part of the issue I'm having is that the people that are out there creating content, the more I learn about it, they're not doing it on their own like I am. They've got a team of people to help them. It may there be two people or a whole company of people, whatever, and they're creating something that's a much better product, right? Um, so I think in the future, if I continue to do this, it probably won't be a weekly thing, and it probably won't be a live stream. It'll be something that I take my time and do and create a better quality content, so that whatever I'm giving you guys is something more meaningful and has a better impact, right? I also have to check my heart about this stuff. Like I want to make sure that I'm not just doing this for recognition or for. I don't think that I have any desire to be famous. I don't think I have any desire to make money off this necessarily. But I do really feel like I might be struggling with like that need for, again, like recognition. Not necessarily. I don't want everybody to know my name necessarily, but I feel like in the disc golf community, I like to make to be relevant, I guess. And that's kind of the same reason I was doing Ninja Disc Golf, and I was called by God to walk away from that as well. Again, when I looked at it, because I'm stubborn and I should just trust God when He tells me this, because that's very important. But I often have to like look into it for my own reasons, and there were a lot of reasons for doing it. And I can tell you the same thing with what I'm telling you now. There's lots of reasons for me to step back from it, but most importantly, the main reason would be is because, like I said, God's been on my heart to walk away from it. So I probably will. Again, I'll play it by ear. If I feel like God's leading me to do something, I'll do that. And I'll continue to put like my sermons that I share with the church on here as well. And mainly I do that so like my friends and family can see it, right? Anyway, I'm gonna finish up the year. I've got like one or two more things that I want to discuss. I still have guests that want to be on here. Maybe I can get one or two of them on before the year is over. We got how many episodes is that? Would that be? Let's see. One, two, 3 episodes left to finish up the year, so possible I can get 2 guests. We'll see. Anyway, I've finished that one. I'm gonna go wash it off, and we'll see how it looks. Be right back. Until then, enjoy the light show here. All right, get back to my face here. Okay, finished drying this off. Came out looking pretty good, pretty good. To say I'm pretty pleased with this. If you guys watched the interview I did with Matthew from Saved by Faith, this man, I felt so bad because I did some really nice looking dies and everything, but I did a lot of damage to the stamps. And I told him, I was like, if I do any more for you, I'll do stuff like this, where it's like I don't have to worry about damaging the stamp because I'm just going to stay away from it, right? And as you can see, this one's very similar to that other one I showed you guys, the one that's in the thumbnail. It's just that that other one had like the wavy lines instead of the straight lines, but that's what I call the tracer effect. And you can do this other ways too. You can do this very similarly. You can do this with that with the black overlay like we did with that. I've done that as well. And if you're worried about like mixing colors and stuff like that and you're not sure, that's a good safe way to do it is just do your whatever colors you want and then just do black on top of it. You can always do that. All right. But I really like how that came out because you keep with that same color scheme that you had going, but you get the cool effect, you know? Alright, so there they both are again. You know, if you can see them better in that or not. Eh. Okay. Still got 25 minutes to go. Cool. Because I wanted to show you guys other ways that I use glue as well as other things for different masking effects. Now, right now we were doing masking with spin dyeing and how you can do that. I also do a lot of masking with doing bed dyes as well. And what I'll do a lot of times is mask the parts that I want to preserve. So I got this guy. This is that Dos Equis that I showed you guys before. Just a disc I like to throw. I think it's the flight numbers are like 8, 4, -1, 2, something like that. A little slightly overstable mid-range, right? Unlike the Firebirds that are beefy, more overstable. Then you got like tilts. That's a whole nother thing, right? Anyway, let me grab my glue. Like I said, just white Elmer's glue. Before we do the glue though, we're gonna do another thing with the masking here, which I'm so unprepared here, guys. I am sorry. Gotta move some stuff out of the way. And you guys can't see it. You can't hear me, or you can hear me, but you can't see me. But right over here, I've got my Cricut, okay? And again, I mean, I'm a stencil dyer. I do all the different dyeing, play with all the different genres, right? The thing I do the least of is cell beds. Not because I don't like them, I'm just not that good at them. I've done a few, and I'm not terrible or anything like that. I've only done one chameleon cell bed ever, and it came out really good. I think the main reason I don't really mess with them is it's a lot of prep work. I don't really enjoy it that much. There's other beds too that are a lot of prep work, but I have more fun with them, so I don't mind doing them. So, ah, eh, don't have a good reason other than that. Anyway, I digress. We are going to do two things with this. So, what I'm planning on doing, I don't even know exactly sure what kind of bed I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do a bed, but I want to save, kind of do something similar to this, and I'm going to save the outside edge to do a spin dye, right? So I want to mask the outside edge and I want to mask parts of the stamp. Now, I could mask all of it with glue if I wanted to, but it's a lot, sometimes for me it's just a lot easier to use uh, a vinyl mask. It's just, especially when I'm just masking a rim, I just like that better. So, let me get this ready here. My Cricut up. I actually don't really need, let's do something you don't really need to look at my turntable right now because it's not really doing anything. But what I will do, actually let me make this small again. What I will do is a screen capture here. There's my Cricut. Okay. Let me do something else real quick. Alright, there I am. I can make myself a little smaller so you can see. Okay. I have like some things that I just have created ahead of time. And my stuff. And I'll go to templates. And I basically just go to the standard template. Oh, and here, check that out. I'll show you guys what else I got there. See, there's my phenakistoscope template, and that just kind of shows. I just kind of divide it into like little pie sections so that as I set up my artwork, I can align it to those sections. I used to be on Team Lone Star Disc, so I've got that stencil. I've also got like the Texas flag. I don't know if you can see that. I've probably done more Texas flag dyes than anybody. And then I've got like a yin yang design. But for this one, it's going to be real simple. We're just doing a simple thing here. Stencil Creation 101. What I've got here. Why are you here? go away. Is this little group, and I've got this square, and it's set up as a draw. In other words, it's not going to cut anything. It's just going to draw it with a pin only if you put the pin in the machine, which I don't even do that. It's just going to make an outline, and that's it. But that square is, if you look here, it's 11.5 by 11.5, and that's the size of the mat. It offsets a ½ inch in. That mat is 12 by 12, but it takes a ½ inch off. And if you don't do that, what Cricut will do is it's just going to put everything in your top left, and it's kind of hard to figure out how to center your design. But if you do this square and then basically just whatever you put in here, you center it to that square, and it's in the center of your mat that way, which makes it a lot easier to do things, to lay them out. And then my circle here, again, it's whatever size. It's 8.25 now by 8.25, and the reason I do that is because that's the size of your most drivers, putters, and fairways, right? Mid ranges are often a little bit bigger, like up to about 8.5 inches, right? But I leave that on there just to kind of see what things are going to look like when they're on the disc. I've got the size of the disc there, and what I'm going to do is that set up as a draw, as a pin, and I'm just going to change that to a cut. So now it's a cutout, and I'm going to change the size to whatever size I want to mask. So I'm going to grab my ruler real quick. Actually, it's a scale. For those of you that work in drafting like me, and don't misname it, it's a scale. It's an engineer scale. Anyway, I'm just going to see how big this stamp is and kind of get an idea of what I'm going to mask. So the stamp is about a 5-inch diameter. So I want it to be a little bigger than the stamp though. I think I'm just going to do a 6-inch mask on it. It's going to leave me a nice like 2-inch rim to mess with. So let's change it here. These are locked, so they're just going to be whatever size I make, it's going to cut to both sides. And you see now it's kind of moved off center. If I just highlight these two, hold down control, highlight them both, and align center. So now it's centered again. And that's it. That's all I have to do. Now I'm going to grab that group and I'm going to make this attach, and that just makes it everything together. Otherwise it's going to be like different steps or whatever, and it's just a pain. For what I do at this time, I always just attach everything and make it one cut. Okay. Give me a second. I got to get a piece of vinyl out and my little board for it and some other little tools, my little squeegee thing. I need that too. This. Grab a piece of vinyl. I am not picky about colors. That's another thing too. If you're watching me, I don't agree with the consensus. Like if you're on the Facebook Disc Golf Dyers group, everybody will say Oracle, was it like 651 is like the best vinyl on the market. I absolutely can't stand that stuff. I have nothing but problems with it and don't ever use it, right? Anyway, I'm going to move my camera for a second here because I kind of need this turntable out of my way. Yeah. Table here. Here, let's see if I can share what I'm doing here. Again, it's not going to be quite the same. I'm done, or actually I'm not done. I haven't done the cut yet, but it's basically done in there. I'll go ahead and see if I can show you what I'm doing though. Let's turn that off for a second. Let's turn that back on. Again, this is kind of, wasn't really planning on doing this, so. Get my mat here, real simple. Take the plastic cover off. You leave the backing on this when you're doing this, right? You're just gonna line it up. You got a little grid there. Line up each corner. Okay. Squeegee it out. Get all that air out of there. Get it adhered to your mat. That's that. Again, we're doing a pretty simple thing here. Alright, and then it said we got this kind of figured out already. Let me move my face over here out of the way a little bit. Maybe I'll move it up here. It's probably, yeah. Okay. And like I said, we already took this and we attached it. We're gonna hit make. Gonna come to this page. As you can see, it shows it centered on the mat. We're gonna hit continue. Of course. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. I don't ever have to do it. Haven't used my, every time if I go a little while without using the Cricut, every time I go to use it, I got like weird settings to go confirm that don't usually have to mess with. But anyway, okay. This, oh, of course my head's in the way now. Okay, so this will often come up. This is the next step, and it's like ask me what material. I always leave this on this setting, washi tape 0.06. I feel like that's the best. You get the best results with that. And again, now it's just asking me to load it and press go. So that's what I'm going to do. That part, if you don't know how to use your Cricut, that you should know that part. Anyway, that's Cricut 101 stuff. If you don't know how to do that, you need to go look at your operator's manual thing. Okay, and there's a button on the Cricut. It says press go. You press go. All right. My phone keeps like going crazy while we're doing this. Of course, people are trying to talk to me while I'm doing this. Okay, there's a bunch of messages. I will read them in a little bit. Tried to, but that's just too much. Yeah, it's super quick. It's just cutting a circle basically. Hit done. It's gonna eject it. I don't care what this is. I'm done here. Just quit. Okay, let's go back to, let's turn that off. And sure, let's turn this back on so you can see what I'm doing. And that's pretty much it as far as this goes. I do one more thing, and that's I'm going to mark my center line on here. And everyone can do this differently, whatever. I always do this. Since I've got a circle on there, I know that it's 6 inches. Sometimes I'll make it according to the mat, but if I've got something of like known size on there, it's more accurate if I mark it on the actual, measure it on the actual thing as opposed to the mat. So I'm going to mark my center, 3 inches, turn it. Go ahead and draw that line there. And down my other center, mark it, draw that line. Okay, and there's a method to my madness there. There's a reason I'm doing that. Because I'm going to use a laser pointer, and that's going to be my point of reference to center this thing. I'm going to take my, this is the contact transfer paper, right? I use the same one over and over until it doesn't work anymore. Some people use a fresh one every time. I'm a waste not want not type of person. As long as it still works, I keep using it. Which is why I still live in this house. Okay. I have an old house. It's built in 1960. Not super old, but it ain't new. Okay. It's older than I am. Okay. I'm done with the mat now, so I'm just gonna put my. Of course, it's trying to stick. Of course, it would do this. Most of the time, 90% of the time, it does not like want to stick. Now it's like super sticky and not letting me get it lined up. There we go. Okay. Squeegee that on there. Okay. Done with my mat. I don't know. Let's see if I'm able to record, catch this in the view for you guys or not, because this is kind of a hard to see thing. It's not hard to see. I just don't know if I can get my camera pointed at it or not. Whoa. Okay. What I've got is I've got a laser pointer suspended above my workstation here. And let's see if I can show you guys this part. Okay. Take my disc, line up the center point on that red dot, and there's like a little dimple there so I can see where the center is. Okay. Take my backer off of this piece of vinyl. When you pull this off, I don't know if you can see this or not, pull it like away instead of up. Pull it sideways, like parallel to the thing. A lot less likely for stuff to stick to it. We've got a real simple thing here, so it's probably not going to stick anyway, but for more complicated designs, that's kind of a lifesaver. Keeps things from sticking to it, saves you a lot of grief. Okay, and as you can see, I'm just kind of lining up that center point with that red dot. Till I make contact with the plastic. Grab my squeegee, start from the middle and work your way out. Kind of go around slowly. You don't want to go all the way down one side because then you're going to end up with wrinkles because it's, concave. I'm not going to obsess over this too much because I don't have, this is not like an actual stencil design or anything. I'm just doing a simple like circle mask, but nevertheless, this is the method that I use, right? Consistency always helps, right? You'll kind of see whenever you get to the edge, you'll feel that edge of that thing. Um, I wanted to emphasize that what I'm doing, what I'm going for, like the overall thing here, is I'm trying to, again, vinyl mask for a stencil and glue mask parts of the stamp for when I do the bed dye, so that parts of that stamp don't receive any dye and they just stay white in the background. Okay, turn off my light there. Give me a second here. Come back to this area. I know this is so unprofessional, right? This is part of the reason why I talk about what I could do better as far as camera work and stuff like that. This is just a camera that I've got up on a tripod, right? Okay. At this point, I'm just gonna remove my transfer paper. Again, I'm doing that same thing, kind of pulling it parallel instead of up. Oh, and by the way, I messed up, guys. I should have removed that inner circle first, but I can do it now. It's not that big a deal. But it probably would have been a lot easier if I removed it first. It should be a little bit different way of marking the center line if I did it that way. I'm having difficulties here just because normally I clear a lot more stuff out of my way because I'm not trying to film stuff and not doing like stuff as I go. Like normally my turntable would be pushed up in the corner where the camera's at, so and that would give me more surface area here to work with. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna take this and just kind of smooth it out to the edges or whatever. Little spots that I might have missed, pretty much got all of it, but and then I'm gonna like fold it over, right? Fold it over these edges. Kind of do this in my lap because it's easier. I don't know if the camera's gonna catch it or not. Kind of just pushing it against my belly as I'm folding it over. And then you're left with something like that. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of push everything in, and a lot of times I kind of tuck it against the inside of the rim there to make sure it really sticks and stays out of my way. This does two things. You could cut this away, but I kind of like just folding it over. It makes sure that like your outer edges are going to be protected when it's in that die bed in case it kind of like spills over a little bit. Also, it kind of gives you handles that you can not only use to place it, but also to take it out, right? Okay, let me pull that circle off the middle. Grab my trusty little Cricut hook thingy. Came with my Cricut, so I don't know about you guys. And then the tweezers that came with the Cricut, I don't like those. But I got like these little, they're like, I guess makeup tweezers, whatever. They're really pinchy, really grippy. I like them. We're at our hour mark, by the way, guys, but I'm going to keep going for a little while just because I want to make sure we go over everything I talked about I was going to go over in this thing, so forgive me. Again, I'm just pulling this circle off. Okay. Pretty true to center. Not perfect, but pretty true. Got it? Got it. Okay. Okay. Now bear with me. I'm going to bring the turntable back, and we'll go ahead and move this thing back in. Normally, I don't do this part on the turntable, but for the sake of time and I'm kind of not wanting to continue to shuffle things around, I'm going to go ahead and just do it on the turntable so I can easily kind of share the screen with you guys. Which way? That way, yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm going to move my face back over here out of the way. What is that? There it goes. Okay. Again, we talked about glue masking. So what this whole thing was about glue masking and other forms of masking. So I don't need the turntable on for this part, by the way. And like I said, I don't normally use the turntable for this because I don't like getting, in case I get glue on it and stuff, but it's not gonna hurt anything really. I have like a plastic Lazy Susan that I'll use for like my bed dies that might get messy or anything like that, where I don't actually need a motorized spinning thing, right? Anyway. Okay, so the parts I want to mask are like the banner part and then the little Texases, and that's it. I just want to mask those parts. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue in the middle there. And I'm going to take my toothpick and kind of just spread it out, right? Stay in the lines of that stamp the best I can. I'm sorry, I'm like kind of sticking my head over this thing and I'm hoping that I don't block the camera. But I need to see what I'm doing here. Add a little bit more. it is good to have a, like I said, a turntable or a Lazy Susan or something when you're doing this though, because sometimes it's hard to reach this stuff, and you kind of need to turn things to, because you don't want to reach across it once you have like glue on there, right? You don't want to drag your arm or your hand through what you've already masked and mess up all your work, right? Again, not real complicated, just covering it with glue. And again, this is kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, we can see what he's doing, we get the idea. If you want to tune out now, you're more than welcome to. You kind of see where I'm going with this. You see what I'm doing with masking, and what you're gonna do is like once it's completely, you're done covering it with glue, you're gonna put it somewhere to dry. I often use my dehydrator if I want it to dry a little faster, but you don't want to rush the process too much. You do want to make sure it is 100% dry, and that's one of the advantages of using the clear, or I mean the white Elmer's glue, is that it will dry clear. So once you kind of see that the white's not there anymore, you know that it's dry enough, like all the white's gone, right? Even underneath, because sometimes it'll be hard on top, but you can still see that it's kind of tacky and white underneath. You want it 100% dry. If any part of it's liquidy at all still, it can absorb dye. That's what you're trying to avoid. And for the most part, you should be okay covering the foil itself with dye, or I mean with glue. I kind of messed up that one for Matthew, so take that with whatever faith you think it warrants, because I said I always do this without any issues covering up the foil, but I had issues with his, so I don't know. I tend to think that that's probably just an issue with that particular foil. And again, the only foil that had issues was the black. The specific black, whatever brand, whatever type they were using on that, had some kind of real bad issue. I'll also say this: Lone Star disc stamps are notoriously hardy. Like, if you're trying to save a stamp, Lone Star is a good way to go because their stamps are actually often hard to remove and hard to damage. If you're um, a stencil dyer that wants to wipe the stamp, you might you might get frustrated with Lone Star because a lot of times they're hard to wipe. But again, if you're someone that tries to save the stamp, then that might be a better way for you to go actually. You might enjoy the fact that it's kind of hard to remove and stands up to the dye a little better. Stands up to acetone pretty well is also what I'm trying to say, because that's what I use. Is I use acetone to wipe the stamps off. I usually throw them in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and then I wipe the stamps while they're cold. The reason I do that is if the color from the stamp kind of bleeds while you're wiping it, it can bleed into your plastic, but cold plastic has a hard time receiving dye because receiving that color, because that's kind of how uh, the chemistry works on it. Heat will speed up that absorption process, but cold will kind of slow it down or completely stop it. So if you're worried about, like for example, this one being like bright red like that, if I was wiping it, I would be really concerned about that red while I'm wiping it bleeding into all that white plastic. So I would make sure it's nice and cold when I do that, when I wipe it, to avoid that. Giving you guys all kinds of just random disc dyeing tidbits here. If anybody chooses to watch this, I'm telling you, I got a lot of disc dyeing knowledge. Like I said, I don't really consider myself the best disc dyer in the world or anything. I'm not a master at any one specific skill, but I have a lot of experience with a lot of different methods. And if you doubt my abilities, go look at my Instagram and go deep. Like I've been doing it for a long time, so there's like if you get on my Instagram right now, it's like all this guy does is post daily Bible verses. What are you talking about? But if you go down a ways, you'll see lots and lots of dyed disc pictures. So I promise you, I have more to offer than just sharing scripture. Although, if I'm honest with you, I think I do more for people by sharing scripture than I do by teaching this. Nothing better we can do with our lives than choose to follow Jesus. Best decision I ever made. I don't regret any aspect of it whatsoever. Have no desire to go back to my old life at all. God has blessed me in more ways than I could possibly tell you guys. I can try though. Took away all my bitterness and fear, took away all that loneliness that I was feeling when he brought me to the church that I go to now. So I have a family that I in the church, and I met my wife there, and we'll soon be bringing our baby girl into the world in a couple months, about 3 months, and I cannot wait to meet her, and I can't wait to share with her about how good God has been to her mommy and daddy. Okay, at the top part, or the bottom part, let's do the top part. It's kind of cool. Like I don't know who that is. I probably should. I could look it up. There's a a stamp on top of the stamp here of somebody's like a little cowboy hat and somebody's PDGA number. So we could look that up and see who that is. I probably should know, but I'm not on the team anymore. I'm not real hip on all this stuff like I used to be. When I was on Team Lone Star, I was big into all the new releases of all the new discs and everything, and stayed on top of it. If you guys watched, it was like my third episode when I had my buddy Troy Miller on here. Um, he was my partner, my business partner with Ninja Disc Golf, and he is still on Team Lone Star, so he gives me a hard time that I'm not. Well, not really. He doesn't really care that I'm not on Team Lone Star, although he's always talking about like the new discs and stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, well, that's your fault for leaving the team. But he does give me a hard time about the fact that I left. I'm not in the PDGA this year. This is the first year since 2021 that I didn't join the PDGA. I haven't really decided if I'm going to join next year or what. I don't know. I still play disc golf quite a bit, but I don't. Not like I used to, I guess. Not as much as I used to. But I just don't have any desire to compete anymore. Just not, I don't know. It kind of, for me, competitions kind of take all the fun out of it. I'm not one of those persons that's real competitive. I just kind of like to get out there and have good conversation, and I don't like all the pressure of worrying about not necessarily winning, because most of the time I'm not worried about winning because I've never won any PDJ events anyway. But I always just kind of have this pressure, like I have to play better. I've got to improve my rating. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And that's the whole thing. When I'm playing disc golf, I'm already always trying to improve anyway. I'm trying to play the best round I can. And I often play best when I'm not worried about things. I will say this, one of the best rounds I ever played, actually not one of the best rounds, my highest rated round ever, it was just under 900 rated, which may not sound like a lot to y'all, but that's pretty good for me. Like, if you look up my rating, which my PDGA number is 183510. There you go. Feel free to look up my stats. Okay. My best claim to fame is in 2021. I had in a B tier. I had a tournament ace. Okay. Um, but that is November of 2023. Yeah. I played the Lone Star Disc Championship, and my third round, I want to say was like 880, 890, something like that rated. It was just shy of 900, and I may be wrong. It may be only be like 870 or something like that. It was at least 870 something. But again, that's pretty good for me. I think I'm just barely like I'm like a 803 rated right now, which I have been higher than that, but just I'm not that great, man. And part of that's part of the frustration too, is that what I really should be playing in based on my rating is like MA4, but most tournaments here in DFW don't even offer that. I very rarely find any that do. I played MA4 in that tournament that I was talking about, the Lone Star Disc Championship, and my on round one I got on the card with the guy that won the thing, and probably played close to 1,000 rated round when I played with him. He had never played in a tournament before, and he had no. I doubt he probably knew how good he was, but because he had never played in a rated round, there was nothing stopping him from just playing MA4 and getting an easy win, and that's kind of how it went. But again, my final round, my third round, I played one of my favorite courses in the Houston area, and now I can't even think of what it's called. It's in the Woodlands. I can't think of it right now. Doesn't really matter. But anyway, I played that like 870 something rated round, and the night before, I had like a moment of conviction, and then a lot of peace was given to me by the Holy Spirit. And the next day, because I was just so at peace and I wasn't being competitive. I was pretty much already okay with the fact that I wasn't going to win the tournament or anything like that. All the pressure was off of me. I had the peace of God in me, and I just played a great round. I was also playing with people that were closer to my skill level, that were kind of newbies and stuff, and I always play better when I'm playing with people that I can give them some tips, and I'm kind of helping coach them, and it takes that I think that's because it kind of takes the pressure off of me to that I don't know. A lot of people play better. They kind of rise to the occasion when they play against people that are better than them. That's not how I work. I'm not like geared for competition. It's just like I said, it's not my thing. Some people thrive on it, and I don't. I tend to shut down more. All depends on the competition, though, just so you know. Mainly talking about athletic competition. I used to do when I was a kid. I say kid. I was in high school. I was on a debate team. I used to do like UIL academic competitions and stuff like that. I was a brainiac little kid, right? And I really enjoyed that stuff, and I did good at that stuff. But when it comes to athletic competitions, I don't have a lot of experience with it, and it's not really my cup of tea, I guess. But I do enjoy sports. I like to play. I just don't like the competitive side of it too much, which maybe that defeats the purpose in your opinion. That's part of the reason why I play an individual sport, that you can just go out and play disc golf by yourself. It doesn't have to be a competition. You just go play for fun. That's why I love it. I play more disc golf in my backyard than anywhere else. So, all right, that's it, man. We got a glue mast, and when it dries out, I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm pretty much done with this anyway, and I'm gonna put it in the dehydrator, let it dry out, and then we'll do a disc dye on it. I probably won't live stream any of that disc dyeing, but I will show you guys the finished result when it's all said and done. Okay, and that's that. Went a little over on this one anyway, but hey, That's what I wanted to show you guys, some of the different stuff we're going to do. We were going to walk through. This is glue masking and vinyl masking 101 basically. We had some cool spin dies, and we're going to see how this Dos Equis turns out when it's all said and done. All right. I think next episode I'll get back to doing some talking. Maybe we'll get a guest on. I don't know. And like I said before, probably going to finish up the rest of December, and we'll kind of reevaluate things from there. I don't know. Like I said, it probably won't be a weekly podcast after that if I continue to do it at all. But again, I'm not going anywhere. I'll continue to share content with you guys, and I'll continue to play disc golf, and I'll continue to do everything. And of course, my videos will be here for you guys to watch. But until then, until I see you again, God bless you. May all your hyzers bring you hallelujahs. See you next time on the Parable of the Disc. God bless.